Have you ever questioned the idea of a divine creator? Imagine a path to ultimate freedom and peace that doesn't depend on prayers or an all-powerful deity, but instead lies entirely within your own mind and heart. What if the answers you've been searching for weren't out there, but already within you? This is the radical proposition of Buddhism, a tradition that challenges centuries-old beliefs and invites you to explore the profound depths of your own consciousness. Welcome, wisdom seekers. Today, we're diving into one of the most provocative questions in spiritual history. Why don't Buddhists believe in God? Stick with me, because by the end of this journey, you might just see spirituality in a whole new light. To understand why Buddhism takes a unique stance on the concept of God, we must first explore the historical and spiritual context in which it emerged. Siddhartha Gautama, the man who would become known as the Buddha, was born into a world deeply rooted in religious and philosophical traditions. In the 6th century BCE, the Indian subcontinent was a vibrant hub of spiritual exploration. People worshipped a pantheon of deities, participated in elaborate rituals, and engaged in heated debates about the nature of existence, the soul, and the divine. Yet, amidst these practices, Siddhartha found himself unsatisfied with the answers these traditions provided. Born into a royal family, Siddhartha had every material comfort one could desire. However, his life took a dramatic turn when he ventured outside the palace and witnessed the harsh realities of human existence, old age, sickness, and death. These encounters awakened a profound sense of urgency in him. He left behind his privileged life and embarked on a quest to understand the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. Siddhartha's journey led him to study under renowned spiritual teachers, practice extreme asceticism, and explore various meditative disciplines. Despite years of effort, he remained unfulfilled. Finally, in a moment of deep introspection under the Bodhi tree, he attained enlightenment. Through this experience, Siddhartha realized the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy. These truths emphasize that suffering is an inherent part of life, that it arises from craving and attachment, and that liberation is possible through the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide for ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. Buddhism emerged as a response to the spiritual questions of its time, offering a revolutionary perspective. Unlike many prevailing traditions, which focused on appeasing deities or speculating about the cosmos, the Buddha's teachings were grounded in direct experience and practical solutions. He was less interested in metaphysical speculation and more focused on alleviating human suffering in the here and now. One pivotal moment in the Buddha's life encapsulates his approach. It is said that during his travels, he encountered a group of seekers engaged in a heated debate about the existence of God. Some argued fervently for the presence of a supreme creator, while others dismissed the idea entirely. They turned to the Buddha for his opinion, expecting him to settle their dispute. Instead of taking a side, the Buddha responded with a parable. He likened their debate to a man wounded by a poisoned arrow. Instead of seeking immediate medical attention, the man insists on knowing who shot the arrow, what kind of wood the bow was made from, and what feathers adorned it. Meanwhile, his wound festers, and his life slips away. The Buddha explained that their debate about God was like the man's questions, ultimately irrelevant to the urgent task of addressing their suffering. This story highlights a core principle of Buddhism, its focus on practicality over speculation. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that the path to freedom lies not in debating the nature of the divine, but in understanding and transforming one's own mind and actions. By addressing the root causes of suffering, attachment, ignorance, and aversion, individuals can achieve true liberation. Through this pragmatic approach, Buddhism carved a distinct path in the spiritual landscape of its time. It offered a way forward that did not rely on external saviors or the intervention of a deity, but instead empowered individuals to take responsibility for their own spiritual journey. This radical departure from traditional theistic beliefs laid the foundation for Buddhism's unique perspective on God and the nature of reality. Buddhism's non-theistic worldview is one of its most distinctive and, to some, puzzling features. Unlike many other spiritual traditions that revolve around a central deity or divine creator, Buddhism approaches the nature of existence from an entirely different angle. To understand this philosophy, it is crucial to delve into how Buddhism views the concept of a creator deity and the practical implications of this perspective on ethics and morality. In traditional theistic systems, the notion of a supreme, omniscient creator serves as the cornerstone of morality and existence. Such a deity is often seen as the ultimate arbiter of right and wrong, rewarding virtuous deeds and punishing wrongdoing. However, Buddhism departs from this framework entirely. The Buddha did not deny or affirm the existence of a creator God. Instead, he reframed the discussion by focusing on the human condition and the pressing issue of suffering. For the Buddha, the idea of a creator deity was irrelevant to the goal of liberation. He emphasized that the universe operates according to natural laws, such as karma, the law of cause and effect. In this view, morality is not dictated by a divine authority, but arises from understanding the consequences of one's actions. Good actions lead to positive outcomes, while harmful actions result in suffering. This naturalistic approach eliminates the need for an external judge, placing the responsibility for one's destiny squarely on the individual. The implications of this non-theistic worldview are profound. First, it offers a radical form of empowerment. Instead of relying on divine intervention or the favor of a deity, individuals are encouraged to cultivate their own wisdom, compassion, and ethical conduct. In Buddhism, morality is not about obedience to divine commandments, but about fostering a life that minimizes harm and maximizes well-being for oneself and others. This approach underscores the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of personal accountability. A famous story from the Buddhist tradition illustrates this principle beautifully. Sariputta, one of the Buddha's chief disciples, was once engaged in a debate with a theist who argued that belief in God was essential for leading a moral and meaningful life. The theist contended that without the fear of divine punishment or the hope for heavenly reward, people would have no incentive to act ethically. Sariputta listened patiently, and then replied with a profound analogy. He asked, "If a traveler is thirsty and comes upon a clear stream of water, must they first believe that the stream was created by a divine being before they can drink and quench their thirst?" The theist admitted that the traveler would drink regardless of their belief in the stream's origins. Sariputta continued, "In the same way, the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, is like that clear stream. It offers a path to quench the thirst of suffering and to find peace. Whether one believes in a creator or not is irrelevant to the effectiveness of the path. What matters is one's direct experience of the truth." This story encapsulates the essence of Buddhism's non-theistic philosophy. It invites individuals to focus not on abstract beliefs, but on practical actions and insights that lead to liberation. By understanding the nature of suffering and cultivating ethical conduct, meditation, and wisdom, one can achieve profound inner peace. The lesson here is transformative. True peace and freedom do not come from external saviors or divine grace, but from turning inward and understanding oneself. This does not mean rejecting all forms of faith or spirituality. Rather, it is a call to approach life with curiosity, mindfulness, and a willingness to question assumptions. Buddhism's non-theistic worldview is not a denial of the sacred or the spiritual. On the contrary, it is an invitation to explore the depths of existence in a direct and experiential way. It challenges us to see beyond concepts and beliefs, and to discover the boundless potential within ourselves. This emphasis on personal responsibility and self-discovery is a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy and a profound contribution to the broader spiritual dialogue. One of the most intriguing and transformative aspects of Buddhist philosophy lies in its teachings on karma and the concept of anatta, or non-self. These principles challenge deeply ingrained notions of identity, existence, and morality, offering a framework that operates entirely without reliance on divine intervention. Instead, they point to the natural laws governing reality and the profound freedom that comes from understanding and embracing these truths. Karma, often misunderstood in popular culture, is not about fate or predestination. It is the principle of cause and effect, illustrating that every action, physical, verbal, or mental, creates ripples that influence our present and future experiences. In Buddhism, there is no need for a divine being to oversee this process. Karma is self-regulating, a law as natural and impartial as gravity. The Buddha taught that our intentions behind actions are key to shaping karma. Positive intentions rooted in kindness, generosity, and wisdom create beneficial outcomes, while negative intentions born of greed, hatred, and ignorance lead to suffering. This framework emphasizes personal accountability, urging individuals to cultivate mindfulness and ethical conduct to steer their lives toward peace and happiness. Closely linked to karma is the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or non-self. This concept is perhaps one of the most challenging for those new to Buddhism, as it directly contradicts the common perception of a fixed, eternal self. In most spiritual traditions, the self or soul is seen as an unchanging essence, often created or granted by a divine being. Buddhism, however, asserts that there is no permanent, independent self. According to the Buddha, what we call self is merely a collection of ever-changing components: physical form, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, referred to as the five aggregates. These aggregates are in constant flux, arising and passing away moment by moment. The illusion of a solid self arises when we cling to these transient phenomena, mistakenly identifying with them. This teaching is not intended to be a philosophical abstraction, but a practical tool for liberation. Clinging to the notion of a fixed self leads to suffering, as we become attached to possessions, relationships, and identities, fearing their inevitable loss or change. By understanding the impermanent and interdependent nature of existence, we can let go of this clinging and find true freedom. A poignant story from the Buddhist tradition illustrates this profound teaching. There was once a monk named Sumedha who had a strong sense of self and ego. Despite his deep knowledge of the scriptures, he often found himself caught in conflicts and frustrations, struggling to reconcile his spiritual aspirations with his attachment to his identity. One day, during meditation, Sumedha had a vivid realization. He imagined himself as a river, constantly flowing and changing. The water that passed him by one moment was not the same as the water that flowed through the next. The river existed not as a fixed entity, but as a dynamic process, dependent on countless factors: rain, rocks, wind, and the earth's terrain. Sumedha suddenly saw that he, too, was like the river. His body, thoughts, emotions, and experiences were all in constant motion, shaped by conditions beyond his control. The self he had clung to so tightly was merely a collection of these changing elements. This insight shattered his ego and brought an overwhelming sense of peace and clarity. From that day forward, Sumedha approached life with a newfound freedom. He no longer reacted with anger or frustration when things didn't go his way, for he understood that nothing in life was fixed or permanent. This clarity allowed him to cultivate deep compassion for others, recognizing that their suffering, too, stemmed from clinging to illusions of self. The lesson from Sumedha's journey is timeless. By letting go of the ego and the illusion of a permanent self, we can experience life with greater openness and equanimity. This does not mean rejecting or denying our individuality, but seeing it for what it truly is, a fluid and interdependent process. Karma and anatta together form a powerful foundation for Buddhist practice. They teach us that we are not victims of fate or divine judgment, but active participants in shaping our experiences. At the same time, they invite us to look beyond the surface of existence, to question the assumptions we hold about ourselves, and to discover the boundless freedom that lies in understanding our true nature. In embracing these teachings, we learn that the path to liberation is not about clinging to rigid beliefs or identities, but about cultivating wisdom, compassion, and an openness to the ever-changing flow of life. This realization is not only transformative, but deeply liberating, allowing us to live with greater peace, clarity, and joy. One of the most remarkable aspects of Buddhism is its emphasis on practical wisdom, an approach that prioritizes personal experience and mindfulness over blind faith or dogma. Unlike many spiritual traditions that demand unquestioning adherence to doctrine, Buddhism encourages individuals to question, investigate, and verify teachings through their own lived experiences. This practical orientation makes Buddhism uniquely accessible, offering tools that can be applied by anyone, regardless of background or beliefs, to cultivate inner wisdom and peace. At the heart of this approach lies mindfulness, the practice of bringing one's full attention to the present moment. Mindfulness is not simply about being aware, it is about observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment or attachment. By cultivating mindfulness, we develop the ability to see things as they truly are, free from the distortions of fear, desire, or preconceived notions. The practice of meditation is central to cultivating mindfulness. Meditation allows individuals to quiet the mind and observe its patterns, revealing the impermanence and interconnection of all things. There are many forms of Buddhist meditation, ranging from focusing on the breath to metta, loving-kindness meditation, which involves generating goodwill toward oneself and others. Each practice is designed to help individuals gain insight into their own minds and, ultimately, the nature of reality. Equally important to mindfulness is ethical living, a cornerstone of Buddhist practice. The Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of right speech, right action, and right livelihood, three elements of the Noble Eightfold Path. By living ethically, we create the conditions for a peaceful and harmonious mind, free from the guilt or regret that arises from harmful actions. Ethical living is not about rigid moralism, but about aligning our actions with the principles of compassion and non-harming. The value of practical wisdom is beautifully illustrated in the story of the Kalama Sutta. The Kalamas were a group of villagers who found themselves overwhelmed by conflicting spiritual teachings. Teachers from various traditions would pass through their village, each claiming to possess the ultimate truth. Confused and skeptical, the Kalamas turned to the Buddha for guidance. Rather than demanding that the villagers accept his teachings, the Buddha offered them a radical piece of advice: question everything. He encouraged the Kalamas to avoid being swayed by tradition, authority, or popular opinion. Instead, he urged them to test teachings against their own experiences and common sense. The Buddha's words resonated deeply. Do not go upon what has been acquired by repeated hearing, nor upon tradition, nor upon rumor, nor upon what is in a scripture, nor upon surmise, nor upon an axiom, nor upon specious reasoning, nor upon a bias towards a notion that has been pondered over, nor upon another's seeming ability, nor upon the consideration, the monk is our teacher. Kalamas, when you know for yourselves that these things are unwholesome, blameworthy, and lead to harm and suffering, abandon them. And when you know for yourselves that these things are wholesome, blameless, and lead to welfare and happiness, adopt them. Inspired by this advice, the Kalamas applied the Buddha's teachings to their daily lives. They observed the effects of generosity, compassion, and mindfulness, discovering for themselves the benefits of these practices. Through their own efforts, they gained clarity and confidence, free from the need for external validation or dogmatic belief. The lesson from the Kalama Sutta is timeless. Wisdom arises not from blind faith, but from direct experience. This principle has profound implications, especially in today's world, where information and misinformation flows freely. The Buddha's call to question and investigate encourages us to approach not only spiritual teachings, but also life's challenges with an open, discerning mind. By cultivating practical wisdom, we empower ourselves to navigate life's complexities with clarity and confidence. Meditation helps us connect with the present moment, revealing the transcendent nature of our thoughts and emotions. Ethical living grounds us in compassion and integrity, creating a foundation for meaningful relationships and inner peace. And mindfulness, practiced in daily life, allows us to respond to challenges with grace and equanimity rather than being swept away by reactivity. Practical wisdom does not promise easy answers or instant solutions, but it offers something far more valuable: the tools to see clearly, live authentically, and discover truth within ourselves. By embracing this path, we learn that wisdom is not something to be received from others, but something to be cultivated through our own efforts, one moment at a time. Through mindfulness, ethical living, and the courage to question, we find that the journey toward wisdom is not about attaining perfection, but about embracing the richness of life with an open and compassionate heart. As the Buddha taught, the ultimate test of any teaching is whether it leads to greater freedom from suffering. When we approach life with this spirit of inquiry, we align ourselves with the path of true wisdom, one that is practical, transformative, and deeply liberating. In an age where traditional religious structures are often questioned and the role of spirituality in daily life is being redefined, Buddhism stands out as a path uniquely suited to the modern world. Its teachings about God, or rather, the absence of a creator deity, challenge long-held assumptions, offering a perspective that feels refreshingly aligned with contemporary sensibilities. For those disenchanted with dogmatic belief systems yet yearning for deeper meaning, Buddhism provides an open, practical, and deeply personal framework for navigating life's complexities. The Buddhist perspective on God is neither confrontational nor dismissive, but simply non-central. Buddhism does not deny the existence of divine beings. Rather, it suggests that such considerations are relevant to the core issue of human suffering. In this way, Buddhism sidesteps the often polarizing debates between theism and atheism, focusing instead on practical methods for alleviating pain and cultivating inner peace. This pragmatic approach resonates strongly in a world where many people seek spiritual guidance without feeling bound to traditional definitions of divinity. As society becomes increasingly skeptical of traditional religious doctrines, Buddhism's emphasis on direct experience over blind faith holds particular appeal. Unlike systems that rely on hierarchical authority or immutable scripture, Buddhism invites practitioners to test its principles in their own lives. This spirit of inquiry aligns seamlessly with modern values of critical thinking and personal autonomy, making it accessible to a wide range of people, from scientists and intellectuals to those simply seeking solace in a chaotic world. Consider the story of Alex, a young professional overwhelmed by the pressures of modern life. Raised in a strictly religious household, Alex had grown disillusioned with the rigid dogma and moralistic judgment that characterized his early spiritual experiences. Yet he still felt a deep longing for connection, meaning, and a sense of peace. One day, a friend introduced Alex to a local meditation group that followed Buddhist principles. Skeptical but curious, he attended a session. There, the teacher spoke not about heaven or salvation but about the mind, how it creates suffering through attachment and aversion, and how mindfulness can free us from these patterns. For the first time, Alex encountered a spiritual practice that did not demand belief in doctrines or external saviors. As Alex began to meditate regularly, he noticed subtle but profound changes. His incessant worry about work began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of presence and acceptance. He no longer felt the need to strive for perfection or compare himself to others. Instead, he found joy in the simple act of being. Over time, Alex realized that spirituality was not about adhering to a set of beliefs, but about understanding himself on a deeper level. Buddhism's modern relevance lies precisely in this capacity to transform lives through self-discovery rather than dogma. Its teachings are not prescriptive. They are an invitation to explore the nature of existence and to cultivate qualities like compassion, patience, and equanimity. This openness makes Buddhism particularly appealing to those who identify as spiritual but not religious, a growing demographic in today's increasingly secular world. Moreover, Buddhist principles offer a counterbalance to the materialism and consumerism that often define modern life. In a culture that equates success with accumulation, whether of wealth, status, or possessions, Buddhism reminds us that true fulfillment lies not in acquiring more, but in letting go. Its teachings on impermanence encourage us to cherish the present moment rather than clinging to what will inevitably change, while its emphasis on non-attachment helps us navigate the highs and lows of life with greater ease. The lesson here is profound. Spirituality is not about escaping reality or seeking answers from an external source. It is about turning inward, confronting the mind's restlessness, and discovering the peace that already resides within us. In this way, Buddhism challenges the notion that spiritual growth requires adherence to a specific belief system. Instead, it reveals that the journey toward meaning and fulfillment is deeply personal, grounded in experience rather than ideology. In a world grappling with existential questions, climate change, political polarization, and a pervasive sense of uncertainty, Buddhism offers tools that are both timeless and urgently needed. Its focus on mindfulness equips us to face challenges with clarity and resilience, while its teachings on compassion remind us of our interconnectedness in an increasingly fragmented society. As more people turn to Buddhism for answers, its enduring relevance becomes clear. It is not a relic of the past, but a living tradition, one that evolves to meet the needs of each generation. Whether through meditation, ethical living, or simply the practice of mindfulness in daily life, Buddhism empowers individuals to take responsibility for their own well-being, cultivating a sense of purpose and peace in the process. Ultimately, Buddhism's modern relevance lies in its ability to speak to universal human concerns. It transcends cultural and historical boundaries, offering a path that is as practical as it is profound. By framing spirituality as a journey of self-discovery rather than a set of dogmas, Buddhism invites us to explore the depths of our own minds and, in doing so, to rediscover the innate wisdom and compassion that define our true nature. So, what have we discovered today? Buddhism doesn't deny or oppose the idea of God out of rebellion, but instead offers a radical alternative. The power to transform your life lies within you. It challenges us to stop seeking salvation in the heavens and start finding wisdom in the here and now. By embracing the truths of karma, mindfulness, and self-discovery, we unlock our potential for boundless compassion and peace. But the journey doesn't end here. The path of self-discovery is endless and deeply personal. What do you think? Does this perspective empower you, challenge you, or perhaps even inspire you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the most profound truths aren't found in any book or video, but in your own experience. So keep questioning, keep practicing, and trust in the light within you. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and let the wisdom of the Buddha guide your way forward.